Let's get to this little bit of a financial mystery that is quite interesting.
This is crazy.
Crazy, has huge implications. And that, by the way, the White House is totally downplaying. So we had, let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. The Consumer Price Index data came out, okay? Was released at 8:30. At 8:29, 1 minute before that data ultimately dropped, there were huge market moves. So you can see that on this chart. The giant spike there that you see in the markets going way up, that spike happens between 8:29 and 8:30. So again, that inflation data, which showed sort of lower than expected inflation, which was, people took as a really good sign, took as a sign, oh, the Fed is not going to continue to hike rates. This is going to be good for us. That data drops at 8:30 and the market is already moved most of what it's going to do at 8:29. Okay, the White House, they say, brushed off those concerns over a leak of this information, calling it minor market movements, but stock and Treasury futures made major moves. So basically the allegation is these people knew what was coming. Somehow they got tipped off to this information that should not have been public to everybody until 8:30. Because of course, if you get a jump on that data, well, you're in a position to cheat. You're in a position to have forward knowledge that is not supposed to be public and be able to benefit from that in advance. So how do you explain the fact that there were thousands of moves made before this data officially releases? Let's put the next piece up on the screen. This is from Bloomberg. This is about, the White House is dismissing these moves. But just to give you a sense of how significant this market movement was that they're downplaying as being minor, stock futures suddenly spiked more than 1%. Trading in Treasury futures surged, pushing benchmark yields lower by about 4 basis points. Those are major moves in such a short period of time, bigger than full session swings on plenty of days. People are saying regulators really need to look into this. To give you a few more specifics here, over that 60-second span, between 8:29 and 8:30, over 13,000 March 10-year futures traded hands during a period when activity is usually non-existent. So 13,000 futures traded hands when normally that number would have been pretty close to zero. So listen. Somehow they got word of this beforehand. That is certainly what it looks like. They asked the agency that puts out this information, and what they said, Saagar, is like, listen, to our knowledge, there was no leak, but by law or by regulation, we have to distribute this info to a variety of government officials. So the idea is somebody's getting paid to give out this information early, or they're having somebody buy for them ahead of time so that they're able to get a jump on the information too. But somehow the word got out. There is just no other explanation for this.
What bothers me is actually the lack of media scrutiny on this. So I actually recall a really crazy example was when Trump was president. So the president by law actually gets the BLS numbers early. And he tweeted something where he was like, big news coming tomorrow, very good, which traders could have assumed was the BLS data.
Yeah.
And they were trading based upon that information. A lot of people freaked out because they were like, well, oh my gosh, like Trump is violating the sacrosanct principle that we should keep these numbers secret up until the day of. Well, look, there's only a couple of people who get this info. The White House Chief of Staff, the President, the Secretary of the Treasury, the Labor Secretary, and then presumably whoever the guy is who brings the folder over to the White House. One of them talked. Listen, 13,000 futures, 1% rally. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
These people, you think they're gamble multi-billion dollars based upon nothing? They're not that stupid. They know what they're doing whenever they want to make a shitload of money. And so I'll look at this. It is so clear that there was some leak. And I think it's insane that the White House is not attacking this. Because here's the thing. Maybe it wasn't Biden, but maybe it was. Maybe he was on the phone to an advisor. And he was like, hey, we got great news tomorrow, to a friend, to a family member, someone just saying, we got great news coming out tomorrow.
Known for not having rhetorical
I'm so excited. CPI is going to show X. That person calls a broker calls someone, next thing you know, the word is out on Wall Street. That's a federal crime. That's insider trading. Like, you have to go to jail. And I'm not even saying that there was necessarily nefarious intent. Somebody overhears something here, somebody overhears something there, you call somebody because you're privy to something. That's a major violation of the chain of custody on sacred information like this, which trillions of dollars in market value can be won or lost based upon it.
But it also, and again, we're not saying this is just pure
I don't
speculation.
know who it is, but
we don't know who it is, but it also very well could have been nefarious, though, because there's huge amounts of money at stake here. And so if you're someone who's sitting there on a government salary, and a lot of these people feel like they should be, as rich as the Wall Street ghouls that they're hanging out with, this is, an opportune pass to get a little bit of a tip out there and be able to cash in to better yourself, as Dan Crenshaw might say. That is a real possibility too. But you have to get to the bottom of this, because this is as clear as day. And it wasn't just like, if the word gets out to one person, then it's going to be hard to see huge market movement. But when you had, the bulk of the movement on this news happened before the news even came out. So it wasn't just, one or two people got word. This information was apparently widespread. That's really the only explanation for what happened here. And the lack of curiosity from the White House, the lack of a desire to get to the bottom of, how this happened and how people were able to get a jump on this data coming out at 8:30 is really stunning and really, really bad as well. We have some other financial news from yesterday, which is the Fed, which has been on a course of extremely aggressive rate hiking of 75 basis points. They have now scaled back slightly to a still aggressive but somewhat less aggressive hike of 50 basis points. That is part of why the markets, responded in such a large way, because once they saw those inflation numbers, they felt more confident that, okay, the Fed is going to sort of dial back what they've ultimately been doing. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. Federal Reserve is about to hike rates one last time this year, how it may affect you. And now we do have the official news that it is 50 basis points. And I also saw Bank of England this morning made a similar move. There are other European central banks that made a similar move and they're all sort of following suit in the same direction. This is important for a variety of reasons. Obviously, we've had a lot of concern here about what the Fed is doing and how it may ultimately impact your wages, your job, your ability to buy a house, all of those things that, enable you to live and live decently and not be so stretched thin at the end of the month. Let's go ahead and put the next piece up on the screen. This is the substance of what was in those inflation numbers. They did slow more sharply than expected in November. Their description here from the New York Times is that this is an encouraging sign for both Federal Reserve officials and consumers that 18 months of rapid and unrelenting price increases are beginning to meaningfully abate. So we had a 7.1% inflation, which, I do have to say, 7% inflation, it's still a lot. I don't want to sugarcoat it. Things are headed in a better direction, and that is important. But people are not getting wage raises. Like, they're not getting raises to compensate for this amount of inflation. So it continues to be very difficult for people.
Yeah, I hate whenever people are like, great news, it's still only inflation at 7. I'm like, 7 is still really high.
Yeah.
Anyone else still go to the grocery store and still can't imagine like why stuff costs as much as it should? So, I'm pretty sure that's not just gonna go away. One of the things that we really learned from the election, which I think is very heartening, is that people were like, well, this really sucks, but I need to go and vote for somebody who's gonna do something about it. Necessarily, they're not just gonna blame the president or whomever just for being in office and presiding over a really bad economy. They wanna hear real stuff. That was interesting, but we still can't take away the pain. Like, there's a lot of pain that remains out there. I actually just saw yesterday the savings rate as an all-time low. Advertising is taking a massive hit, also indicating that retail sales are not catching up with where they traditionally should be. A huge amount of retail sales happen right now because of Thanksgiving and Christmas during the holiday season. Massive amounts of profits not going to their direction where they should be in a traditional boom year. So you can just see that, unemployment, it's not great, not bad, but inflation eating away at wages and earnings and housing, like, it's one of the most wonky and, in my opinion, like, structurally biased economies against I won't even say working class people. I'm gonna say like all the way up to straight middle class. Like upper
yeah.
middle class and onward, like you're good as long as you make over 100 grand. But the vast majority of the public, let's say 65% or other, like basically the economy's rigged against you right now.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. And I mean, something we have really tried to focus on is the housing market.
Right.
Housing has never been less affordable. And the Fed really unable to deal with the core issues that have led to this inflation to start with, which is, I think, why it's been so sticky and so hard to deal with, because we aren't actually using any of the policy tools that would require legislative or executive action in order to deal with those issues. So anyway, that's the picture as best we know it right now. You got some good old-fashioned Wall Street rigging and government collusion and corruption that the White House is apparently content to basically overlook. And you have the Fed continuing their march towards higher rates and potentially destroying your livelihood. That's where we are. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.